set up with hospital, with research institutes, and then a kind of also a biotech incubator that kind of gives a very unique, how say, kind of bed to kind of making the right compounds. This kind of how do you select patients? Typically based by informative biomarkers, and then kind of that's the other piece that's really important for us. And just giving one example, and that's there are many examples you could bring up here, but think about how you can link genetics to kind of disease biology. Is actually here one example using Finnish data where you can then, if you've done a lot of genetic analysis, I mean here we look at a gene called the PCSK9, where basically we're looking at individuals who have a loss of function in that gene, and I think each of us, Arno is an expert on that, but I think there's about 100 kind of knockouts, each of us, and individuals who has a knockout in this gene, then you can ask in something we call a PHEWAS analysis, what biology, if you look at different kind of biology, is there any particular thing that's noteworthy, by having this knockout? And what you can see here is that you actually have these individuals have very low LDL cholesterol, and what that suggests to us immediately is this could actually be a good target for pharmaceutical intervention. And as you know, there are a couple of companies out there with PCSK9 antibodies. So this is one way we can actually address, on the previous slide, how do we find good targets. Another thing you can actually use it for is then, and I think that's maybe not so obvious from the information on this slide, but you can look across other types of biology and information and see, is there a link to other biology? Is there a link to potential safety concern? Because of course you can say, this looks like a good target, but then if it has some detrimental effects on safety, then you don't want to go in there. So, and we have actually, and what's also nice here is that you have the link to potential biomarkers. We actually use this in several programs to identify potential biomarkers for several of our indications. So I think it's a good, exciting resource, and we will see an explosion, I think, in the next probably like 5 years in this space, and I think a lot of the most exciting development will come from the Nordic countries, and I think that's where we probably see the earliest impact. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we are, and other farmers are focusing so much on this region. I was afraid I would take the whole hour, but I think it went better than I had hoped here, so it's good. So now let's go to more, exciting part of the session, which is the panel discussion, and kind of like to ask each of the panelists to go through a little bit, what are particular strengths, with respect to health data and biospecimens in your country, and what are you most excited about, and maybe also, what are the biggest challenges that you see. So I don't know, Arno, if you'd like to start us off.
Thank you, Morten. Yes, I'm happy to give my view from this, coming from the most eastern country of the Nordic countries, from Finland. Overall, I think that the Nordic aspect is the one that I especially like to flag, because altogether we are, about 28 million or something like that. Each of the countries are rather small, but it's unique to find an area where this particular field is so harmonized and has such similar ways of operating, and we have a long tradition to work together, and epidemiology has been exceptionally strong in all these countries, and provides a fantastic springboard for this type of next generation studies. What is unique with Finland is then that indeed we are slightly different. We were the backcountry of Sweden for 500 years, and they kept us there in isolation, and it's resulted in the peculiarity that which the rest of the Nordic countries are laughing at, how we are slightly different from the other ones, by enjoying our life the way that, as the Danes say, that we sit in the basement and think about our funeral. That's the so having, but that has also brought in some fighting spirit, and as you know that during the last few years when Nokia didn't do that great anymore, so we had to look at new ways to find new growth areas, and one of the things that of course the other Nordic countries as well, but also Finland, I think especially aggressively took, is that to find the ways now how can we leverage from those investments we have done over decades in healthcare and these healthcare systems as Morten was describing. And I have to praise the ministries and their civil servants who were driving during these difficult times new legislations that, as Morten was saying, not only the biobank law, which very importantly, and this is a very important technical feature of it, that the recalling of patients who have given their specimens in the biobanks is made especially easy. Of course, you have to go through certain bureaucratic steps to do it, but basically that is made possible. The other thing is that the registry combination, which has been maybe the most advanced in Denmark, so that is also an area which has now, through a new bill, will be from a year from now, or actually 9 months from now, even easier than it already is. And that's also something where we have a long tradition. The isolation brings a special kind of biological benefit there. We are Europeans, so if someone argues that we are that different that we can't be compared to the rest of Europe, that is not correct. We are still Europeans, but due to the isolation, so there are certain biological questions which are of special interest, for instance, for drug development, just as Morten was describing. We have some of these, as we call, knockout genes. The genes which have totally their function has been knocked out, and they provide a very interesting biological testing ground for early drug discovery studies, and that's maybe one of the specific features for our country. Currently, then, when you think of what's challenges, which is the second question, we are, due to the legislation and due to the spirit of our government, which has really decided that this is an area of growth and investment, so of course we are ramping up very rapidly our biobank network nationally, and I think the main challenges are the challenges that we don't know. In other words, when we are ramping up the system quickly, we need to build data management systems and various new entities, and maybe we haven't thought of every single thing that will be needed in that growth, and those might be the things that we need to solve. And maybe lastly, thinking that currently the consenting of people into these systems, when you really ramp up, is overall in all over the world a complicated system. We should find some way which speeds that up and makes things easier. A little bit like Iceland did at their time with the opt-out system. That's something to look into.
Thank you, Anna. Mads?
Thank you. I'd like to echo Arno's comments that we collaborate very closely in the Nordic. We actually meet several times every year. People who work in the registry area or biobank area, and actually really learn very much from each other. It has been fruitful when we built all these systems. What I think is a particular strength is that we have everyone involved. So we don't deal with selection biases of any kind, and that we are able to quickly get access to exactly the data set that we'd like to work with. So you can actually, from a registry search, learn that some people respond to a drug they take and others don't, and immediately go to our national biobanks and pull out the samples that we need to actually investigate what could be the reason that one group responds to this drug and another one doesn't. I think that's a really great strength. And as you just saw on the slide before, we have biobank material on nearly every citizen in some of our countries to work with, which is great. Then if you look more on the registry side, we have these national registries, and if you're in the drug business, we'll be able to actually look more closely at how people respond to these drugs, do drug-drug interaction trials. Or more importantly, we are all getting very old these days, so we'll get more than one disease, and we'll have more than one treatment. And there the pharma industry really have problems because they can't do polypharmacy trials. There you really need the observation trials. So drug companies can actually learn from working with the Nordic registries whether their drug is a particular more important one in combination with other ones or not. Then also I think I'd like to stress that we are very good at e-health in the Nordic, which means we have personal records that you can look into. So as a citizen, I can go and look up what has happened with me, what kind of lab results will I have. But also that we have an IT infrastructure that makes it possible to communicate with every citizen in our populations. So you can write out to them just by mailing to whoever you want to be involved in the study, or even better, because we have a legislation, say in Denmark and now other countries, you can do studies on biobank material without asking the individual. You just have to have the permission from the Scientific Ethics Committee. But then you can write them, send them an email and say, pay attention to the fact that your specimen is now being used for this particular genetic study. And if you don't want to have this done, you just click on this button and you opt out. So, I mean, really a Nordic system that should be great for a lot of you that really want to engage people in clinical trials. I can't really see any other place in the world that has systems like that. And then, if I should say something about the biggest challenges, I think, and I really believe this, the biggest challenge is that this resource is underused. It has tremendous potential. And with a little investment, I mean, we could really boost up, our capacity and ability to extract important information from this Nordic healthcare system, population science system. So we very welcome, everyone interested in working with us.
Okay. Anna?
Thank you, Martin. And I would also like to echo what you say, that we are definitely a Nordic collaboration. And now my colleague is in Levanger in Norway, discussing how to keep collaborating around biobanking and automation around biobanking and the infrastructure. And I would say that one strength that we do have, that also the previous ones mentioned, is the infrastructure. We have very strong infrastructure around biobanking, but also around the registries. And in Sweden we call it the quality registries. It's the follow-up registries for different diagnoses, and we have more than 100 national quality registries. And that was one of those that was used in the study that Morten showed, where we could perform a study in less time for less money with the same result as an ordinary randomized clinical trial. We have a long tradition of biobanking, as all the other countries. I think we have pathology samples from the beginning of the last century. We now also have great collaboration in at least our country, between academia and healthcare, which has been improved over the last years immensely, I would say, and what is needed also then to collaborate with the commercial interests. And we have a lot of interest. We know in Sweden, we know I think in the Nordic countries, that it's very, very important to collaborate closely with you, because I work in academia and healthcare, and we know that we will not produce the new diagnostics and the new medicines. So we need you, and as Mats said, we have a gold mine in the Nordic countries, and it's underused. So we have the data, we have the possibility for long-term follow-up of patients. We don't lose any patients. Will I go back to the study again? We didn't lose any patients to follow up over that time, because even if you move, you're still in our registries. We are very good at following people. So if you have a problem in integrity, maybe you don't want to move there, but you may be interested at least in working with us, because that is what you're good at. Yeah, so I will hand over to Kevin.
Thank you. I think that there have been very many good points taken up from my colleagues up here, and I think that one thing, if I go specifically to cancer, since Oslo Cancer Cluster is focused on that disease area, is that the Nordics have the world's oldest cancer registries back from the 50s, and that is data that are also annotated clinically and also combined with certain biobank material. And if you look at, that's one example of an asset. If you combine that with, and take into account that we have one health system and a personal number that keep you from birth to grave, you have a system for monitoring and learning about the health of a population that is nowhere else to be found. And I think if you take the thinking here of how can we deal with real world data and use also the historical data to understand. So one example that we had in collaboration with US was together with Lawrence Livermore Labs, which has one of the world's fastest computers, which then look at how can we look historically at the data in the cancer registers to see, can we see pattern here to understand better that we haven't seen before. And I think the possibility we have with registers combined with biobanks and other health data in the Nordics is also to see, can we use the real world data we have to cut down on what expenses are needed to get a drug to the market. So in cancer, this is very clear. So it's a very clear trend going to precision medicine. So the cost of developing a drug gets higher and higher. The amount of patients this drug would treat get lower and lower. That doesn't add up. And then you can say, well, if you take a phase 3 study and look at what is it actually trying to achieve, and